Brace yourself.
2018 was pretty low-key when it came to games for me. I didn't rush out to buy many new releases this year, making more of an effort to clear out my shamefully large backlog. So making a traditional top 10 games of 2018 list seems kind of dishonest. I don't want to praise the hell out of a bad game I played solely to fill a 10-game quota, so we're doing something a bit different this year. I'm going to look at every game that I played for the first time this year, each game that I played enough to get a feel for how much I enjoyed it, even if the game wasn't released in 2018, because there were a lot of older games that hit my radar this year. If I played the game enough to gather an educated viewpoint on it, it's eligible for this video, so expect some unorthodox topics in this list. With that out of the way, let's get to it. It's Post Mesmeric's 2018 in games. Doki Doki Literature Club was one of the first games I played in 2018. I had seen the memes and heard the stories, so I thought it was time to finally see what this little visual novel was about. With a cast of tropey but likable characters and a memorable soundtrack, it makes a good first impression. But the way Doki Doki Literature Club subverts so many precognitions of its genre is something worth praising. All things considered, I like what Doki Doki Literature Club tries to do. I'm a sucker for those types of storytelling directions, and I think that going too deep into why would ruin the surprise. And the surprise is really what Doki Doki Literature Club wants you to remember, beyond any real character development or meme-worthy narrative directions. It's a short, free game, but if you're looking to try something a bit more sophisticated than your typical visual novel on Steam, give this one a try. Far Lone Sails impressed me right off the bat with its gorgeously bleak post-apocalyptic setting, one that emits a beautiful sense of solitude. Sailing throughout the wasteland on your craft definitely has some wonderful moments, but that's really all the good things I can say about this game. What a letdown this one was. It's not the repetitive mechanics or simplistic puzzles, it's the lack of evolution. Not much happens in Far Lone Sails, and that also makes the game's lack of memorable set pieces all the more glaring. The ending also leaves a lot to be desired. As far as art house games go, Far Lone Sails doesn't understand that without an ebb and flow to its narrative progression, the player is only going to get bored instead of mesmerized. As much as I want to, I can't recommend this one, even for the most curious of gamers. If I played A Hat in Time in 2017, it'd be on the top games of 2017 list, no question. When it comes to making a platformer feel fluid, few games manage to hit the bullseye, but A Hat in Time feels so tuned. Jumping and sliding is some of the most cohesive and controlled movement I've ever seen in an indie game, and the collectible hunting never feels like overkill. And the level design? It's awesome. I love just exploring each world and finding hidden goodies, or simply running around and practicing with the movement mechanics. It's pretty short, even with the DLC, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a platformer that's made me smile ear to ear throughout its entire playthrough like this one. Gears for Breakfast should be very, very proud. The Messenger is a great retro throwback. It's fast, fluid, and takes a very attentive approach to how to make a challenging action platformer. Straight ahead and no frills. It's fantastic. For its first half. For all of the unwavering focus that The Messenger delivers in its initial hours, it simply can't hold that level of engagement after it shifts to an open-ended Metroidvania. Don't get me wrong, there are some pretty awesome set pieces scattered throughout those later hours, especially in the bosses. But the busy work of warping back and forth to various parts of the map to progress is just a slog, totally missing the point of why a Metroidvania is compelling. The engagement is stunted by constantly respawning enemies and trudging repeatedly through areas you've already been through to chase whatever magic MacGuffin the game wants you to collect. But through all this frustration, I still recommend The Messenger. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and its premise is still pretty clever. The linear action platforming is honed and exciting, well worth a good playthrough. I just wish the game's momentum continued, even after its awesome first half concluded. Speed Brawl managed to sell me with a trailer. One little video showcasing fast, stylish beat-em-up gameplay and some pretty kick-ass character designs. But once actually diving into it, I simply couldn't turn away. This game hooked me like no other indie game like it, going so far that I managed to 100% complete the game over the course of more than 15 hours. It feels so good to move in this game, it's so fast and responsive. The dash mechanic makes continuing combos seamless and fluid, and the challenges constantly throw new dynamics and twists your way to keep you on your toes. And it all comes packaged with some fantastic art direction and animation. This was a game that I probably would have ignored entirely if I didn't take a chance on it, but lo and behold, Speed Brawl was a totally addictive 2D beat-em-up, one of the best I've played in years. Going into 2018, Visage was not only one of my most anticipated horror games of the year, but one of my most anticipated games of the year. I still shiver at that ingeniously scripted gameplay trailer, and I simply can't overstate just how promising this game was to me, taking the reins of the PT-style horror subgenre that's appeared over the last few years. And with the game now available in early access, I can confidently say that Visage needs a lot of work. Despite its brilliant setting, Visage still succumbs to confusing layouts, half-baked mechanics, and jump scares galore from difficult-to-track insta-kill enemies that simply become annoying instead of scary. These tropes have been a part of horror games a lot these days, and I was hoping Visage would dodge those missteps, but its current state is more irritating than anything else. There's still time for the game to recover, of course, since it's still in early access, but man, right now, this is a huge letdown. Sunset Overdrive almost got me to buy an Xbox One. The game looks so colorful and energetic. Insomniac already had an amazing track record in the industry, but Sunset Overdrive looked to be the antithesis of the formulaic cover shooter trend that had plagued the 7th generation of consoles before. And I'm glad I didn't buy that Xbox One, because 2018 gave us a long-awaited and long-rumored PC port of Sunset Overdrive. And it's just a blast. Never before have I seen an open-world game use its structure and architecture to fuel its movement mechanics like this. Chaining together moves is seamless and stylized, guns are punchy and fun to use. Missions are surprisingly arcadey, and the game even puts its own cool spin on bosses. Sunset Overdrive feels like the natural evolution of open-world games, with mechanics that enthusiastically push navigation and action in totally gripping ways. That's why I've sunk so much time into Sunset Overdrive, and why I'm not stopping anytime soon. The first Unravel was one of my favorite games of 2016, but sadly, Unravel 2 just couldn't grab me the same way. It's the level design, which lacks the grounded, personable touch that made the first game's world feel so believable and gripping. Despite the tag team mechanic being executed surprisingly well, the levels feel so abstract and, for lack of a better term, video gamey. Unravel originally hooked me by taking photorealistic environments in a creative direction, but Unravel 2 just experiments too much. Almost no level in the game felt like it could exist in real life, which is why Unravel 1 worked so well for me. The creativity was shown in how you could take a backyard and make a level around it, while still providing challenge and intrigue. Unravel 2 just didn't do that. It experimented in inorganic ways, and while I think it's still a decent puzzle platformer, it couldn't live up to the high standards that the first game reached so effortlessly. VR Chat is a total clusterfuck. It's a meme-driven experiment gone horribly awry, capped off with the same spontaneous craziness that you'd expect from a chat room circa 2003. But I still have a soft spot for it. I mean, look at how much time I've sunk into this game, and I don't even have VR. This game's appeal is very your mileage may vary. You're bound to find utter chaos in VR Chat. But if you can get a real conversation going, you'll find a surprisingly compelling spin on internet communication. Making and using character models is actually pretty creative. Beyond all the memes is a way to express yourself that no other social media form has really managed to nail. Hell, even MMOs haven't reached what VR Chat has attained. VR Chat is some kind of monster, a game that since has taken off into the stratosphere with meme economies and general weirdness. But there's something really fascinating about how VR Chat took off, and why so many people are still invested in its strange world. All things considered, it's dumb fun, and I'm down with more of that. Kingdom Hearts 3 is less than a month away, so in my efforts to catch up with the series, I dove into 0.2 Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage. It's clearly Square trying to wring out as much of the story as possible before getting to that anticipated third installment. And while I wasn't blown away by it, I was pretty impressed at how Nomura and his team tied the events of Birth by Sleep into the original Kingdom Hearts 1. The gameplay was standard, the environments were a bit bland, and Nomura still can't make a good boss fight without padding them out with health bars, but there's a level of homeliness to this game. I originally played this very close to the start of the year, and back then, Kingdom Hearts 3 felt so far away. But in replaying this recently to capture footage, Kingdom Hearts 3 is insanely close to prime time, so I experienced totally different perspectives during those two playthroughs. It's short, simple, and honestly a bit rough at times, but it was good to see that, even in the realm of darkness, Aqua is gonna be okay, and things were well, shit. God of War 2018 was a game I was totally ready to hate when it released. While I never was a huge fan of the old God of War games, this new direction definitely felt like a mistake to me, especially with the Sony AAA tropes hanging over the game's head. But honestly, my low expectations were probably the right mindset, because I ended up appreciating God of War 2018 more than I thought I would. Yes, the combat is pretty standard, and the autonomy of many of the mechanics did rub me the wrong way, but I was pleasantly surprised at how well the storytellers bridged the gap between the Greek God of Wars and this new Norse direction. While I can't see myself replaying it anytime soon, God of War produced a world that was engaging, and Kratos ended up being more than the stereotypical psychopath he appeared as in the past. A decent action game that left me surprisingly satisfied. Dad of Boy was actually pretty damn alright. Shamefully late to the party, I really enjoyed my virgin journey into Super Metroid. Yes, there were some moments of honest-to-God frustration that almost pushed me away, but eventually everything came together to be the benchmark of what the future Metroidvania subgenre would be. Super Metroid felt atmospheric in some very daring ways, even with the limitations of the Super Nintendo. Exploration was gratifying and delivered nuance to Samus's moveset, offering plenty of ideas to play around with as I progressed. And unlike many other retro games I played, Super Metroid never felt primitive throughout my playthrough. Its ideas still glowed brightly, honed to a point. For all of the progression and evolution that Metroidvania games have undergone, Super Metroid holds up remarkably well, and it's a game that I'll definitely be giving more time as the years go on. It's been a long time coming, but Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is finally here, and I simply couldn't pull myself away. Smash has always managed to hook me in one way or another, whether it's the huge roster of characters or the accessible but compelling mechanics. It's the one fighting game that effortlessly grabs me, and Smash Ultimate's avalanche of content is some of the biggest I've seen not just in the series, but in all of gaming. The World of Light had its wear, but it ends on a very powerful note, constantly giving spins and twists on the tried and true gameplay to make it shine. I'm still experimenting with both new characters and fighters that I might have overlooked in the previous game, so I'm in no way hesitant to say that I'm still neck deep in Smash Ultimate. I don't expect to stop anytime soon. Gris is the next in line for art house platformers. Its rich, hand-drawn aesthetic is the sweetest of eye candy, some of the most gorgeous graphic direction that I've seen in all my years of gaming. And the beautifully ambient soundtrack is easily the best OST I've heard all this year. Still, its gameplay felt disappointingly standard. Not much is going on under the hood on a mechanical level, though I think the game's many set pieces do break up the platforming in good ways. The spins on water levels and even inverted gravity stages were done in simple but creative ways. Despite the game's lack of real gameplay evolution, my time with Gris was engrossing. It has its missteps, but this is still an art house platformer that I can recommend confidently. This little indie title, Bladed Fury, is the next heavy hitter for stylish 2D beat-em-ups in line with games like the Dishwasher Vampire Smile and Icy. With fast, exciting combat, Bladed Fury's fighting system is one rich with potential. Giving the player a parry and a dodge so early opens up things considerably. The combat constantly encourages these experimental defense options, and with super armored enemies and attack patterns that test the player's timing to a T. And while the story is pretty formulaic and dialogue heavy, I liked the ancient Chinese setting and character designs. Do I wish the combat had a bit more depth? Admittedly, yes, especially when it came to weapon enhancements. But for the asking price of $10 US, this has just enough length and engagement to be worth a look for action game fans. Whoa, hold on a sec. There's one more. If there's one game that's kept me coming back over and over, all throughout 2018, it was Dragon Ball FighterZ. No other game, regardless of its age, genre, or length, truly engrossed me, drew me in with consistent evolution to gameplay and a constantly flowing river of content like this fighting game did. Aside from Smash Bros, I never would have given a fighting game the time of day because I always felt like the genre was something I couldn't get into without heavy investment and practice. But Dragon Ball FighterZ was the tipping point for me. It was the game that got me to practice with an arcade fight stick, start researching fighting game mechanics, and becoming genuinely educated on a genre that, even just a year ago, I never thought could compel me. But Dragon Ball FighterZ did. It managed to take simple, digestible mechanics and steadily broaden their scope until it was something palatable for me. It managed to deliver a fast-paced but controlled gameplay setup that I wanted to get good at. It introduced me to a community that was out to help me and many other newcomers improve and develop their skills. Honestly, this was the fighting game for me, the gateway game that crossed me over and got me to give a damn about the genre. Even though I'm still a new player, I'm still drawn back into FighterZ. It's such a joy to play, even through consecutive losses, and it's given me the energy and enthusiasm for this genre that I've been without for decades. It got me into fighting games. So, if I had to pick one game as the best, my own game of the year for 2018, Dragon Ball FighterZ is it.